Hey, as we get back into society, let's remember, people will punch you in the fucking mouth.
Welcome back to the Mat Mindset. I'm Drew Elder. I'm here with 2-1 amateur fighter Madison Guinn. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. So we're just going to jump right in. How did you get started in MMA, of all things?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. I started wrestling in high school because I grew up with just a brother, no sisters, and all my cousins were boys. And we always ended up wrestling and joking around on the trampoline. And they always told me that I should start wrestling. And so my freshman year of high school, I didn't do it. I was kind of like put off by the idea of rolling around on the ground with girls in like a singlet. Just wasn't going with for me for a minute. But eventually, my sophomore year, I joined wrestling, and I found out it was really awesome. I wrestled 3 years in high school. I was signed to go to Wayland Baptist University and wrestle in college. After I went to Fargo, I decided that was not what I wanted to do. It was super expensive. At the time, there was no NCAA wrestling for women's wrestling. It was WCWA. So it was its own wrestling thing for college that you really had to go to a private school at that. And there was only one school at the time in Texas that did it, which was Wayland Baptist. So it was going to be super expensive. I decided I didn't want to go into a huge amount of college debt just to wrestle for 4 years.
Fair.
And I'm a realistic person. You know, if you don't think that you're going to go into the Olympics from wrestling, let's not spend like $80,000 on it. So
Yeah.
I stopped wrestling, and I kind of felt defeated afterwards. I was like, man, I spent so much time and effort into this sport, and I felt like I was just getting good at it, and now I don't have anything left. And I was told by a lot of people, like, do jiu-jitsu. You know, jiu-jitsu is a lot like wrestling. You're going to start out knowing a lot of what you already need to do, and then you just got to learn positioning that's different with jiu-jitsu and submission. So I was like, okay, I joined Gracie Baja Westchase. I trained under Opiano for almost 2 years. It was super great. And then I moved to Huntsville for college, and I was like, wait, there's no jiu-jitsu in Huntsville.
You're kind of in the middle of
nowhere.
Jails.
Yeah, 7 jails or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, we have a boxing gym here, and, you know, obviously I take to martial arts and I like it. Let's just try to start boxing. So I started boxing for about a year and a half. And then after that, I decided, like, I just definitely want to get back to wrestling, but I would love to punch people. So, like, let's find an MMA gym. So I came to Houston because I knew that there was no MMA future for me in Huntsville, and I still had like 2 years left of college. So I came back against my father's wishes, and I was kind of like in a bad situation to come back to Houston, but regardless, I came back because I really wanted to do MMA, and I wanted to train at War. I had already heard about War when I was wrestling in high school. They had a really good wrestling club program. So I was like, okay, you know, it's very wrestling based in their school. It's a lot like what I like to do, so I'm sure that it'd be a great gym. And I started training at War. I've been there for 4 years now doing MMA with them, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life besides starting wrestling. So it's been a really cool journey to get here, and I love every second of it.
That's awesome. They do have some really good wrestlers out there.
They do, yeah.
Every time I train with those guys, I just get blast doubled, and it's just like, oh shit.
Me too. Yeah.
So take us through like a day. You're currently in camp, correct?
Supposedly, yeah.
Okay, you're right. So take us through a day in your fight camp.
Okay, so like let's say it's a Monday or a Wednesday. I'm gonna do. My days change for strength and conditioning, but I've been starting to do 2 days a week of 6 a.m. strength and conditioning over at Temple Construction with David Wynn. Shout out to David Wynn. And it's been awesome. It's been really good. It's beforehand, I had a personal trainer type situation for strength and conditioning, and it was just one-on-one. And this gym is now like a group training session, so I like it a lot more. Not all the eyes on me when I'm trying to,
You get a break.
Do a little list. So I've been training there for a couple months now, 6 a.m. Then I have a job. I have a full-time job. So Monday through Friday, I work 8 to 4:30 at the least. Sometimes I work until 8 to 8 at night. And I usually get out in camp at about 4-ish, 4:15, race over to War for 5:30 MMA. And then I do MMA, let's say on Mondays and Wednesdays at 5:30, and then at 6:30 there's some sort of gi class or MMA wrestling or things like that. I'll do those classes, and then on my Friday nights, I go over to Adam Copley's house. We do striking at 8 p.m. Right now, I've been doing Thursdays, striking at 8 p.m. So every single day, I'm figuring out something to do in the afternoon as soon as I get off work, like go work out. And then as well as supplementing the 2 days a week of strength and conditioning. And then on Saturdays, we have our spar days. So today I got lots of punch face in. It's about 2 hours of practice. The first hour is like a lot of wrestling drills and striking drills that are just to tire you out. And then the last hour is like 10 rounds of sparring. So that's my Saturday. And then on Sundays, I've been picking up open mats. So I'm starting to have to like figure out days I can take rest days here because like the 7-day-a-week schedule is kind of nuts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Okay, so your body's still able to recover naturally from just a lot of sleep.
Right.
But do you do anything specifically for recovery? I've talked to other fighters, your boyfriend included, who was a great guest on the show, said, I take supplements, and I asked him which ones, and he said, I take a multivitamin, and that's and I was like, Jacob, you
don't let him lie to you. He never
else.
takes his multivitamin.
So, do you do anything extra? Do you stretch? Do you do ice baths?
I'm actually really bad about that, and I think it like comes from like the wrestling background. Like wrestlers never recover. Like they never go do like ice baths or anything like that. I don't do anything to recover. Honestly, I just kind of deal with the pain and keep it moving. Sometimes in the mornings I crack a lot when I stretch, and then I just go about my day.
Yeah. So, man, I wish I could do that. I have to wake up.
I won't be able to do it forever.
No, you won't. Sadly, I started stretching here recently a lot because I was training jiu-jitsu at Torres Jiu-Jitsu and just getting beaten up and involuntarily stretched, and I was sore from that. So I was like, let me just actually do it myself. And it has helped. But when I was younger, training and stuff like that, I just was like, I just need to go to bed and just rest.
Exactly.
And I'm all right.
Exactly. I don't need to go pour me an ice bath. I don't like them, so I'm not going to do them. I don't need to go sit in a sauna. Like it's 11 o'clock at night. I got to go to sleep.
I'm a big fan of the ice bath now.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those troughs, so I'm like, I just
like
got
the Joe Rogan trough.
Yeah, I need one. I every time I get a chance to take one, I take one because I'm just like, all right, this will help. Hopefully, it does, but it is cold, of course.
I don't like the cold. My friend and teammate Sandy, shout out Sandy Jerez, she does cold plunges like nearly every day. She's putting on her story. She's like sitting in a 40-degree cold plunge. I'm like, you're nuts. I'm not doing that. No.
I mean, it depends on how long you sit in them too. So I've seen some guys sit in there for like 5 minutes and they're fine. But they did this competition on The Ultimate Fighter, and Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler sat in there for like 20 minutes, and you're not supposed to do that.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can get severe hypothermia doing that. So 3 to 5 is a good time, but again, people hate them just because like the first 30 seconds is shit.
Horrific.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a purple belt now in jiu-jitsu.
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You said you've been a purple belt for what, like a year and a half?
About
now?
a year and a half. Yeah, November of 2022, I got my purple belt.
Okay, awesome. So you started training jiu-jitsu at War? Sorry,
no,
not
you're fine.
Yeah.
At Gracie Baja West Chase.
That's right. Yeah.
When I was 18.
Okay, and you've kept up with it, and then transitioned to MMA from there.
Mm-hmm.
Has the jiu-jitsu scene changed at all from the time you've been 18 till here? I know I've been noticing a lot more women training jiu-jitsu, which is fantastic. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. When I first started training about 5 years ago, there was not as many women doing it, for sure. I've seen like it's exploded in the last 5 years with women's jiu-jitsu and women's MMA as well, but more so women's jiu-jitsu. And the competition is getting a lot more expanded. When I first started training, you saw like a lot of the same girls training at the exact same tournaments or competing at the exact same tournaments. IBJJF, grappling games, Naga, all those, Jiu-Jitsu World League. It was always the same people that you saw over and over and over again. Whereas now, like every time I compete, I see multiple new names, if not all new names on the bracket. So that's really cool to not be able to recognize anybody because there's so many girls. That was never a thing in wrestling, for example. So it's definitely changed. It's expanded a lot, and these girls are tough. I mean, I just went to a Renzo Gracie open mat about 2 weeks ago for Sunday, and these girls are hard rolls. Even the girls that maybe are not doing this competitively and maybe are not doing this because they're MMA fighters and they just want to do some jiu-jitsu, like they're hard rolls. They're tough, they're strong, they're technical. So it's been really cool to see the growth in the last 5 years of women's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I've been noticing a steady uptick in it myself because when I first started, it was just a big boys club,
Definitely.
So now it's good to get these women in there. Do you have any advice for women who are curious about starting?
Start. Like now, like right now. The best thing you can do for yourself is just start, because once you get into it, you'll learn everything you need to know about, like, what are you going to need to wear and where do you need to be and how does this really work out within the first couple sessions of doing it. You'll get the hang of it. It's just get in there, and a lot of women are afraid of either they're going to hurt themselves, or a lot of women, one thing I hear all the time from them is, oh, I'm too old to start jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I really hate that, because anybody at any age, at any point in their life can join jiu-jitsu and do it. It really is jiu-jitsu for everybody. For example, my mom, I told her when she was 49, I mean, I've always told her she should do jiu-jitsu, but when she was 49, which was like a couple months ago, I sent her a video of this lady, and I wish I could remember her name. I need to figure out her name. That is 65, and she's a black belt Masters World Champion. And she started training at like 54, I think. And she just, she was going through a divorce. She was just wanted to do something. She needed to get her life into some sort of goal. And she joined jiu-jitsu. Now she's a black belt world champion. I mean, that's amazing. That's so cool. And so I sent that to my mom as like just a kind of like nudge her.
Yeah.
And like a week or two later, she joined jiu-jitsu.
Awesome.
And it's been awesome. She's been doing jiu-jitsu for probably about 6 or 7 months now. She turned 50 in March, and her goal was to compete before she turned 50, which she did. Not only that, but she got a sub on a girl with an Americana.
All right.
Yeah, and she also placed second and third in her 2 brackets.
That's
so
badass.
Like, it's so cool. And that's my 50-year-old mom.
Yeah.
And my mom, like, the only thing she ever did martial arts wise before that was she did like Tong Sudo when my brother, who's 6 years older than me, was like a toddler.
Yeah.
So like she is a great example of somebody who, anybody can join jiu-jitsu and be really good at it. I roll with her now, and my mom is like putting me in these weird positions I can't get out of. I'm like, wait a minute. What did you just
time out.
Stop it. You're a white belt.
Yeah.
So
wait
like,
a second, Mom.
Yeah, hold on, Mom.
Yeah.
We're about to turn it up. All right. So
where are my MMA gloves?
Right. You're about to learn today. But in another great example, she has a teammate at her gym that she trains at who is 70 years old and just got his blue belt. I mean, like, that's so
cool.
inspiring and cool, and that's just a perfect example. Another example in Renzo Gracie's at that open mat I just went to, I met this woman who is, I think she's 56 or 57, and she started at about 49, right around my mom's age. So I was telling the story to somebody about my mom, and she's like, whoa, sounds like my story. And like, this woman was diagnosed with cancer. She was told that she would have had, she had leukemia and uterine and ovarian cancer. And they gave her a lifespan of like a year to live.
Wow.
And 7 years later, she's in remission and training jiu-jitsu, and she's I think a purple belt. I mean, like, jiu-jitsu can change your life, and it's for everybody. There's nobody I've ever met that started jiu-jitsu and didn't love it, and that started jiu-jitsu and it didn't make their life better. If your goal is to lose weight, if your goal is to gain confidence, if your goal is to have goals, you just want to do something with your life and get out of the house, like, just start jiu-jitsu. You're not getting punched in the face and kicked in the legs. It's not scary as scary as it's made out to be. Like, it really is for everybody.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I definitely agree. And I think one of the biggest turnoffs to jiu-jitsu, I should say, is the intimidation factor of I've never done this before. I don't want to get, people become really claustrophobic and anxious about getting into tight spots and whatnot.
Right.
So I think that definitely drives people away. But at the same time, everyone that I've spoken to that doesn't train, they're like, I'm not in shape. And I'm like, you're never going to be in jiu-jitsu shape until you train jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
So come on, just start fucking training.
Yeah, what
That's
are you
all it
gonna
takes.
do? What are you gonna do to get there? Go run 10 miles and then you can
Right.
join jiu-jitsu? Like, what's your
Yeah.
goal to get there?
That's what I'm like. The guy I just had on, the bald guy, his name's Derek. He's one of my best friends, but he lost a bet. He trained jiu-jitsu with me for a day, right? And his whole thing was like, man, I don't know. I'm not going to be in shape. But I was like, Derek, all you got to do is just train one day. See how you like it. You're never going to be in shape.
Right.
He lifts weights, and he is in shape, just in other ways.
Right.
And at the end of the class, he was like, holy shit. I was like, yeah, man, just if you keep going, it gets easier.
Right.
So that's my biggest piece of advice. People, keep going, it gets easier. You're never going to be in jiu-jitsu shape until you train jiu-jitsu. And you can always kind of pick and choose. You can always tap.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, if you get claustrophobic, you get anxious, you feel like you're dying,
Yep.
all right.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And they will respect that.
Yeah. And you can just tell your partner, like, hey, I don't deal well with that. I'm trying, and it takes some time. Some people, it takes a long time to get over getting smashed.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
But being a wrestler, you were kind of already used to it. And
I was getting smashed all the time, so I was used to
Yeah.
I was used to just rolling with the punches at that point.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And plus, in the gi is different than no gi, and people find their niche and they stick with that. And
Right.
it's jiu-jitsu is amazing, man.
It is.
Yeah.
And then you're right. A lot of people, if it's not the I'm too old to start, it's the I'm too out of shape to start. And the thing is like, if your goal is to be in shape, then start, because that's what's going to make you get in shape. That's what's going to make you get in the jiu-jitsu shape. You're not going to go lift weights for a week and then feel ready. At what point do you feel ready? You'll
Right.
never feel ready.
Exactly.
Just like, if you wait to have kids so you're financially, ready, you're never having kids. So it's like
Yeah.
one of those things. You just gotta do it. I'm not saying I'm trying to have kids, by the way. I just want to put that out there. Give me like 10 years.
Yeah, you just got to take the plunge. That's the biggest thing. You just got to jump in. It is scary and it is intimidating, and you don't know what to expect. And if you've never trained any sort of martial art before, it's very new.
Very much. Yeah, very
like,
much so.
Everybody can kind of train boxing. They're like, oh, I've seen boxing. I kind of know what to expect. I'm going to get fucking punched in the face, whatever. And people can watch UFC and be like, okay, they go to the ground. It's fucking boring, whatever. But then when they train it, they're like, holy shit. Like Derek was saying, I have a newfound respect for the UFC. He's a big UFC fan.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I have a newfound respect for the ground game after just one class. And he's like, I still don't know what the fuck's going on down there, but like now it's in my mind like, oh man, this is a lot harder than what it actually seems.
Definitely. Like a lot of times that you're watching fights with your non-fighting friends, they're like, oh, just get up.
Yeah.
It's like, let me put you in that position
Yeah.
real quick and you tell me how you're getting up.
Exactly.
Especially when I'm punching you in the face while you're doing it. So like
Yeah.
a lot of people who don't train don't understand how hard it is to grapple, how hard it is to grapple and ground and pound, how hard it is to grapple and be ground and pounded. Like it's a hard position to be in. And talk about claustrophobic. When you've got somebody on top of you and they're raining down punches, you feel like you're about to like spontaneously combust. Like this is the most uncomfortable spot to be in.
Yeah.
So I definitely like when people come at least do one class.
Yeah.
Please. I think every man on these streets right now should do one boxing class, and it would humble out a lot of people and stop a lot of fights and arguments.
For sure.
You
realize I don't know how to fight at all.
at all.
Yeah.
At all. When I started wrestling, I thought I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, oh, my brother and cousin said I'm strong. So I'm like, I could beat up anybody.
Yeah.
And then I started wrestling with these girls who'd been wrestling since they were like 6 years old. And I was like, oh. No, there's people walking around me right now that could beat me up. And I don't even realize it. And I'm thinking I'm like holier than thou. But once you start wrestling or boxing or doing any really Muay Thai, any martial arts where you're getting the crap beat out of you, you start to get a newfound respect and humbling among society.
Oh, for sure. And MMA grappling is different than regular jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
Like someone at the gym was asking me about it one day, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think MMA grappling it's hard, but in itself, like you're not getting smothered as much because you have to posture up to punch somebody. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, you're creating space for me to escape whenever you try to hit me.
Exactly.
In jiu-jitsu, I can just mother's milk you all day. And for those that don't know, it's like You're in mount. You put their face on your chest, and you just suffocate the shit out of them.
I've done it. I've done it to girls in my gym. Only girls.
Yeah.
Only girls. But every time I do it, like I get so excited when I tap them. I'm like, mother's milk. And my coach Jeremy was like, Madison, I don't think you're supposed to say that or do that, honestly.
Yeah.
I was like, it's cool if it's against the girlies, no problem with that.
No issues there,
Yeah, but if you hear me mother's milking guys, you need to go talk to Jacob.
Yeah. Come see him at Main Street. Guaranteed he'll be, don't worry, got open mat here in a second, my friend.
Yeah.
That's one guy I don't want to fuck with either.
Oh, no, me either.
If he calls you out, just take the L. Just say I'm sorry and move on.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
preventing you any future injuries, okay? So, do you have any future plans for MMA? Like, what's the goal here?
I mean, the ultimate goal is to be in the UFC, and to if we're shooting high, the goal is to be a world champion in the UFC. That's what every true MMA fighter's dream is to get at the top level and to be at the top of the top level. I know those things take time. I'm 23 years old. I started training MMA when I was 19, and I started grappling when I was 15. So, I didn't get a head start on grappling or striking or anything like that when I was a kid, but I think it just takes a little time, The other day I was looking up all the UFC world champions right now, and all but like 2 of them are over 30, so 30 or over. So, I've got a lot of time. I've got 7 years before I turn 30.
Yeah.
And a lot can happen in 7 years. So, right now I'm a 2-1 AMI. I want to keep fighting. I want to get, 5-1, 6-1 and go pro. And then, work my way up to the top like everybody wants to do,
Sweet.
If you're not going for the top, what are you going for?
Right. You got to shoot for the stars.
Exactly.
Continue. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next topic here is okay, there's no real segue into this.
Okay.
So, you're a sumo competitor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sumo wrestling competitor.
Absolutely.
Okay. How did you start that?
Yeah, so that's a cool story.
Yeah.
I love wrestling. I love all things wrestling. And I love all things martial arts. And I have a goal that by the time I retire from fighting, I would like to have tried from fighting. I'm going to do jiu-jitsu till I die.
Yeah, for
sure.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, but by the time that I retire from actually fighting, I would like to try every martial art at least once, besides like kung fu and karate. I'll do taekwondo because I have a brown belt in taekwondo, so I'll definitely, I want to compete in taekwondo at some point. I'm trying to figure out plans to do that possibly this year. But I just want to try everything. And I've done freestyle, folk style, and Greco wrestling. So I also have done catch wrestling. It's like kind of like jiu-jitsu wrestling. So I looked up sumo wrestling because a couple years back, my coach Jeremy, by the way, Jeremy Mahone, shout out. He loves sumo. Like he watches it in his free time.
Really?
Adam says that when they go like out for UFC fights and stay in hotels together, like he's watching the sumo bash shows. Like he's into it.
It's very surprising to me.
It was to me too. I was like, very interesting fact about Jeremy.
Yeah.
So he loves sumo wrestling, and he wanted to have like an in-house tournament at the old gym that we had, the Old War. And he had pretty much everybody do it. Like, it was just a giant, like, I guess what would they call it, like a round robin? But, like, everybody wrestled everybody in sumo. Yeah. And so many of the MMA guys were getting so frustrated because they weren't realizing that you can't drop to a knee to double leg or to shoot or to do whatever. Like, the only thing that can touch the ground is the bare, like, the bottom of your feet. Not even the top of your foot. If the top of your foot slides on the ground, then you're out. Like it's very, very particular. So once the hands touch and come up, that's it. You can't touch the ground again. So
except with your feet.
Except with the bottoms of your feet.
Bottoms of your feet.
Yeah. So the goal is to either push them out of the ring or make them hit any body part besides the bottom of their feet onto the ground. So hands, tops of their feet, throw them, all sorts of ways to make some, snap them down.
That's what, I was going to say. Snap downs are allowed?
Snap downs are allowed, yep. You can even slap in the face with sumo.
Really?
Yeah, you can open hand slap the crap out of somebody. You can also, like, pretty much forearm them in the face. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a brutal sport when you actually watch it.
Yeah.
And most of the guys that are doing this sport that you're going to be watching are humongous dudes. And so, like, they sound, Jacob made a good point the other day, they sound like cars crashing when they hit each other. Like, It's
They do.
They do.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of it just because it's been on, and I'm like, all right, these guys are fucking 600 fucking pounds, and they're athletic as shit.
Yeah.
For 600 pounders.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Carry on.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I was telling somebody the other day, like they don't look like athletes, but they are 1,000% athletes. They're more athletic than a lot of people in the street right now. But so yeah, Jeremy hosted. Back to the point. Jeremy hosted a in-house tournament, and I did it, and I actually was like, this is really cool. Like this is Greco wrestling basically, but you like with more rules. But you can go down to the body, so like it's really not Greco. It's really freestyle wrestling, but with like different rule set. So you can throw people, you can suplex people, you can do all sorts of things. So I kept it in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, that's really cool. Add it to the list of, martial arts I got to try one day. And then in November 2022, I think it was, I was like a couple weeks prior, I was looking up sumo in wrestling in Texas. I was like sumo wrestling in Texas because I was looking up like catch wrestling things that they had and what have you. I was just like, I want to do more martial arts. Like I want to compete. And I saw that 2 weeks later, there was an Asian night festival where they were selling like Asian food. And then there was a bunch of like, art, I don't know what those things would be called, like installations and things like that, and like performing arts. And one of the things they were doing was like a sumo tournament at the Asian festival. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. That'd be cool to go watch. And then I look into it and it says Sumo Open. And that word open means it's open. That means anybody gets to sign up for that thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute. I'm doing sumo wrestling in 2 weeks. And then not only that, it was a $400 prize if you won the open weight bracket. So I was like, how many girls do sumo wrestling again?
Yeah.
I'm joining it right now. So I signed up. I was super excited. And then they coupled like a day or two prior, they were like, oh, it's raining really bad. The grounds that we were going to do it on are muddy now because of all the rain on the dirt. We're not going to be able to do it outside. We're going to need to find either somebody's backyard and like tarp it, or like we're going to have to find a gym or something. I was like, well, we have a giant gym in Houston called War Training Center, and let me call my coach and make sure that he's cool with it before I offer it to you. But I'm pretty sure he would be cool with hosting a bash show. Or at the time, I was calling it a sumo tournament. And so I called Jeremy and I'm like, "Hey, coach, is it cool if we do this tournament here?" And he was like, first off, it's called a bash show. And second off, of course it's cool. Let me go home and change my shirt right now. And so he went home, put his sumo shirt on, like cleaned up the gym, was so excited. They came, we set up, we did the sumo tournament at War. So my first sumo tournament ever was at my gym. And I won $400.
That's badass.
Yeah, it was me and four other chicks, and they were all bigger than me, every one of them. Yeah, it was probably girls ranging, I don't know their exact weights, but I would gather that they were ranging from like 160 to 230, right? Like these are some big chicks.
Yeah.
And not in an unathletic way at all. These girls are athletes, like I'm saying, like these guys are. But they were tough. But I had so much wrestling before, and all these girls were doing it because it was the first sport they ever did. They never had wrestling or jiu-jitsu or MMA prior. So I was like, wait a minute, this is like an untapped martial art, not just a cool one, but like I could like do some cool stuff in this martial art with my wrestling background. So I believe it was my second tournament ever was nationals. It was in.
Oh man, you went right to the big leagues.
Top. Yeah, and I am now the 2023 middleweight sumo national champion for the U.S. Yeah, so that's it was super cool. I went to Orlando, Florida. I was just like, I'm gonna do it. Like, why not?
That's
cool. I actually did 4 brackets that night. I did the middleweight bracket for the U.S. I also did the middleweight bracket they were doing the North Americas because it was a national qualifying tournament, so they needed to have a U.S. bracket only. But there were some Canadian girls there that wanted to compete as well. So we were like, well, of course we're going to let you wrestle. So we did like a North American bracket. So I won the middleweight North American bracket, and I won the middleweight national championship. And then I got second at the open weight open weight bracket for the U.S. and I believe second at the open weight bracket for the North Americas. So it was pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
It was great. And then I qualified to represent the U.S. in Tokyo, Japan. So in October of 2023, I flew to Japan for a week and competed at Sumo Worlds. It was a crazy experience, best trip of my entire life. And I personally did not place. It was, my third sumo tournament ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
At Worlds,
not bad for your third time.
You can't win them all.
Yeah.
So I had some really tough competition. Those girls were strong. And also I was in the wrong weight class, first off. Middleweight, I thought capped out at like 136, and it capped out at 143, I think. And I was like, oh my God, I was so mistaken. I thought I was going to have to be traveling to Orlando and traveling to Japan at, 136 pounds. And at the time I'm walking around 145, I can't do that. Realistically, I was 2 pounds away from the weight class I needed to be in below, and these girls are tiny. These girls aren't they're all skinny girls. None of them are wrestlers or jiu-jitsu girls or MMA girls that look beefed up and muscular. This is the only sport they do. So I was like, oh my gosh, I was like beating myself up. I was like, why did I do middleweight? But this year actually, I still plan to go to nationals in San Diego, June 1st, I believe it is, or maybe May 31st. I think it's May 31st. No, it's June 1st, is nationals in San Diego. So I'm going to try to be the 24 national champion and then hopefully go to Poland this year for Worlds. So
cool.
Oh, and then fun fact about Worlds that I didn't mention. Our team, personally I didn't place, but our team got third, which was the first time that a U.S. women's team has ever placed in a Sumo Worlds in like 15 years.
That's badass.
Super cool.
That's awesome.
Super cool. So personally, I didn't place, but as a team, we made history. So it made the whole trip worth it.
So how do you train for sumo? I mean, MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, everybody, you can kind of gather how you just, the Olympic trials are on now for wrestling, so you can kind of watch that. But there's no televised, as far as I know, there's not really televised sumo matches in the States at this point in time. And if there is, then they're like on ESPN, The Ocho or whatever.
Right. Well, actually, fun fact, I've been working for a company called World Championship Sumo, or promotion, rather, called World Championship Sumo. And we're trying to bring sumo to the U.S.
Yeah.
And, right now, if you want to watch sumo wrestling, you're going to have to go online to a link and watch the bashos. And they're only, filming during the time that they're there, and then you have to wait a long time to see them on YouTube later. So if you want to watch live sumo wrestling in America, you got to know the schedule, or you're kind of out of luck. That's about it.
Right.
So we have been doing, so far, we just did our 5th show at Madison Square Garden. It was amazing. I mean, I can't even explain being able to commentate at Madison Square Garden. It was so cool. And we have been bringing wrestlers from the U.S., we've got a couple Egyptian wrestlers, one guy, and most of them live in the U.S. except for one of our guys from Brazil. He comes in from Brazil, Hui Jr. But we've got a couple guys who are Egyptian that live in the U.S., a Russian guy who lives in the U.S. One of the Egyptians and the Russian guy are pros. Or ex-pros from Japan, so they actually did real sumo wrestling that you see in bashos. Not saying that we're not doing real sumo wrestling, but they were at the highest level of sumo. Not they weren't like Yokozunas, but they're at the highest level in our minds as Americans of like real sumo wrestlers. Like if you want to see sumo wrestling in America, you're going to see amateur sumo wrestling if you go to a live event. These guys were in Japan on the clay doyo going against Yokozunas and beating really high level sumo wrestlers. Both Osuna Arashi and Saslan Gaglov are two of our guys that have been getting in the finals nearly every tournament, or not every tournament. It is a tournament style, but every show. And they were both Magashira 1, which is about, I believe, 4 below Yokozuna. So they got the sumo ranking is really extensive, and I couldn't tell you all the rankings because there's so many different ones. And then the way that they go up and down, there's a lot of different things that can make you rise and fall in the ranks. But to get up to that level is super hard. So we're doing a couple shows so far. We've done 5. We've done 3 that were club sumo. They were at White Eagle Hall in New Jersey, and we wanted it to be like a sumo with a club vibe. Like you're looking down at the doyo from the second row. You've got people on the sides. There's a bar. Like it's fun. It's more catering to the American Western audience, right? Whereas when you watch sumo in Japan, you're watching traditional bashos with a lot of traditionalism and a lot of rituals and a lot of ho hum, when is the wrestling starting, right? And it's not so exciting and got you on the edge of your seat. And so what they've been trying to change with World Championship Sumo is make it more exciting and make it more not westernized, because we don't want to change sumo wrestling. It's been around for over 2,000 years. Like it's a very important sport, and it needs to stay the way it is. We don't need to change anything about the techniques or the rule sets or anything like that. We've got a gyoji in the ring, which is a referee. We've got 4 judges on the side, because if the gyoji calls something and the judges are like, actually, because sumo's so quick, it's happened so fast, the matches are never longer than a minute, hardly ever longer than like 10 seconds. So it's hard to ever see what all's happening. So we've got judges on the sides that are watching, go, oh, wait, we need to go watch the replay. And we go watch the replay. Actually, we're going to change it. And we do it all by the rule set that they do in Japan, whereas there's judges on the side. The gyoji makes his call. The judges are the ones that are going to say, actually, we need to review. And then these guys are getting rankings, and they're getting points over the tournaments. So you're getting to see who's in the leaderboard. You're getting to see stats of them. We've got pictures of them with their weight, height. It's really cool. It's a really cool production. You can watch it on Triller.tv, sponsored by Fight TV. And I'm not getting paid for that. Shouldn't have done that one. But it's really cool. I mean, it's a really cool way to bring sumo wrestling to America. We had 2 shows now that were our World Championship Sumo shows versus the Club Sumo. The first one was at the Prudential Center, so huge show, and then the second one was at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
So you said that they only last for 10 seconds. You can only win if you push them out of the ring, or if their top of the feet hit the mat, or if their hands or whatever. There's no other like point system or anything?
No, it's so fast that it's either you stay in that ring or you don't, or you stay up or you don't. You know, if you get taken down, that's it. It's kind of like how judo is so quick. You know, if they get a throw, it's over immediately. Sumo is a lot the same, and I mean they both have Japanese lineage, so they're very similar in that way that it's very quick and exciting. And so there's no points for takedowns, because a takedown is a win. You know, if you push somebody out of the circle, then you win. If you make them touch anything besides the bottom of their feet, you win.
How big is the circle?
A little bigger than this table.
What?
Yeah.
The whole circle?
Like it's like a little bigger than where around the area that we're sitting. So like the circle would probably just close us up.
Whoa.
It's a small circle.
I didn't realize it was that small.
Yeah. You don't have a lot of room at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could be just sitting at the edge of the circle about right here. It's a very small circle. So I mean really it takes like 3 hip thrusts or like 4 hard steps, or it's not a lot to get them out. So it's all really hard bursts of energy, and that's why it's such big dudes, because you get these small squirrely guys that are doing it, and they're getting thrown around really easily. You get a bigger guy than him, he's throwing him out the ring. But you see all these professionals, it's open weight in professional sumo wrestling in Japan. So you can be as heavy as you want to be. So you want to be immovable. Like, you want to be a hard force to push. And that's why it sounds like cars crashing, because these guys are just coming at each other like linebackers as hard as they can. A lot of these guys did play football, like Soslan Gaglov, one of our ex-pros. He was on 2 NFL practice teams and also played for the St. Louis Rams. So played semi-pro football. So he's a legit football player and ex-professional sumo wrestler, and now he's continuing his sumo career. So it's really cool to watch. If you don't watch sumo wrestling, I got to tell you, you need to start. And if you want to watch some Western audience sumo wrestling, watch World Championship Sumo.
That's pretty. Man, I had no idea about any of this.
Yeah.
So the attire for the guys is like, how would you describe? Like, you can grab that, right?
Yes, it's called the mawashi.
Okay.
It's made out of like a really thick cloth that you have to wrap everything up into.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah,
Yeah, there's no like underwear that you wear underneath it. Like when you wear bare mawashi, you just wrap it all up. Now, when you see like guys in America doing sumo wrestling, you're gonna see them in spandex shorts more often than not. Some of them will do the traditional, nothing underneath way, but a lot of guys just don't want their butt out. You know, it's just it's just very open.
Right.
And for women, the rule is that there has to be a singlet, or I have seen my teammate at Worlds, she wore sports bra and spandex shorts and nobody said anything to her. So the ruling states online that it's singlet, or they call it leotard, but singlet. So the ruling states that you have to wear a leotard, but I've seen the shorts and the spandex, or the spandex shorts and the sports bra, and I've also seen girls doing sumo in like leggings and a shirt in competition. So, for women, you kind of can wear whatever you want. For guys, you either wear the spats or you wear the mawashi, and that's it.
Fairly lax, I guess, on the uniform. It doesn't matter if it's like colorful or black or blue or
it depends on what the tournament is. So, in pro wrestling in Japan, you have to wear just the mawashi bear. There's no spats, shorts, nothing. Like you have to wear the mawashi by itself, and the colors mean something. Like all the colors mean different, either I guess like ranks or accomplishments. That's something I need to like brush up my knowledge on. But the colors do mean something. In America, though, people just get kind of either a white mawashi or a cool color. Like green, purple, orange, whatever. Black mawashis I've seen are really cool looking. And they're pretty lax on the, what your singlet looks like underneath for like American amateur tournaments, or what your shorts look like. I've seen guys wearing like straight up like boxers with cool designs on them. I'm like, okay, whatever floats your boat. At least your butt's not out. So they're pretty lax. But when you go to like Worlds, they do want it to be uniform. So like all the girls had like black singlets on.
Yeah.
Or the black sports bra and spandex.
Gotcha. So in Japan, they do it on a clay surface, right?
Yes.
But here in America, are they doing it? Is it the same? Are they doing it on like wrestling mats here?
Wrestling mats, yeah. We don't really have anywhere to set up a clay doyo. You got to build a clay doyo.
Yeah.
Like you got to have clay doyo space.
Doyo is dojo. Just am I wrong?
It's DOHYO. So it's doyo.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the circle is and like the raised platform is the doyo.
Gotcha.
And the outside ring can be made from different things. I've seen it made with like rope that's been kind of like somehow secured down to the below mat. I've seen the way that we do it at WCS is we have like a blue wrestling mat, and it's got the circle, and then we follow the circle with these things that I guess it was made to be like a wrestling mat sumo ring, because it's lifted and it Velcros onto the mat. Like the mat has Velcro that holds it in place. So you have that raised edge from the rope. And that can trip you up, but you could also kind of use it to push back on a little bit. If your feet feel your feet touch it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So how do you go about training for this? Do you just push people and just fucking go for it?
That's kind of what the training looks like, honestly. I'm going to be super honest here, though. I've done 2 sumo practices ever.
Hey, that's all right. So when I've watched it before, just because you're right, they do sound like cars crashing, and I'm like, this is fucking, like, these guys are big.
Yeah.
And when they do it, I'm like, okay, there has to be some sort of technique involved.
There is, for sure.
I have they just look like they're pushing each other. And I know that's not true or right, because I mean, how fucking ignorant would I sound if I was like, oh, they're just pushing each other.
But that's what it looks like.
Yeah,
you don't understand it until you like really get into it. One of the things I've been told by the pros, one of the things Saslan Gaglov told me, was that if you want to be better in your stance, you need to keep your feet wide, almost like at a 90-degree angle. Keep your stance wide, keep your knees wide, and you need to slide your feet. You don't want to be stepping, because every time you step, you take that weight up off the ground and you can get moved either direction. But if you're sliding, you're just pushing before they're at the edge and they can't go anywhere else. Another technique that you see a lot is you'll see them hipping into you, almost like you would hip in for like a mat return or like a suplex. They are just hipping their hips in, and they'll hop their feet in hip bumps, and that will bump your opponent out. There's a lot of different techniques that you see. Snap downs are really useful because, they just come forward, and anytime you have somebody just running forward into you and you pull their head down, they're going down. You see a lot of misdirection type deals. They call it a henka, which is a sidestep, Henka. And so they'll sidestep and let the person just run past them. Works a lot often.
Yeah.
Works really often because these guys are gearing up to go, and they think that this is about to be a car crash, and then you play chicken with them.
Yeah.
And now you're out the ring. And so that's a really good one. They also have the flying henka, where you pretty much it's called sometimes the matador in the States, but where you jump up and you move out the way, so you just pretty much jump over them as they're running towards you. A lot of different really cool techniques. You can do arm drags. Arm drags work really well. Single legs work amazing because a lot of sumo wrestlers don't practice getting out of single legs and double legs and getting out of shots to the legs, because most of the time when you think about a shot to the leg, you think about dropping the knee, and you can't drop the knee in sumo. But with the single legs in sumo, I mean, you can just drop down to a leg.
Yeah.
And if they're not expecting you to shoot on them and you drop down to a leg and pick them up on one foot, all they can do is hop, and you just walk them right out the ring. It's been really successful for a lot of the MMA fighter, folk style, freestyle wrestling background guys that we've had on the show. Just dropping to a single leg and running with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So circling back, how has sumo translated or helped you in MMA?
I definitely think it does help. It showed me a lot of different ways to be stronger going forward and how to kind of impose wrestling a little bit more on people. Like I've always felt like I was a strong wrestler in terms of like how I move people and what things I set up. I don't ever feel like I just kind of like tie up with people and hang out. Like
Right.
If I'm collar tying you, I'm collar tying you, and if I'm moving you, I'm moving you. But sumo taught me kind of a good way to keep it forward motion and how to really get better balance when you're wrestling, because you don't realize how bad your balance is in your stance until you do some sumo and somebody just kind of moves you over and now you're out. Now you touch the ground. You just got snapped down. Like it's really, one of the things my coach has done to me a couple times, Jeremy, whenever I train with him, because I've done a couple. I lied. I've done 3 practices. I've done a couple sumo practices, like where we just straight up train like sumo techniques. And he always gets me. Is like I just start walking forward, but then I let my back and my shoulders and everything come over my hips. And so then I don't realize how far forward I am. And all he has to do is literally just, not even so much that, just back off. And I just fall right in front of my face. And you realize like sometimes you're just running into people and you can't just have your shoulder and your back over your hips and your knees, otherwise you're going to lose balance. So it's taught me how to be a lot more mindful of my balance, because it's really easy to get misdirected or just dropped if you're just running into somebody with too much force.
That's probably it's beneficial. That's awesome. Does it help you like on the fence at all? Like wrestling on the cage?
I wouldn't say so, because there's no cage or anything
Right.
Like there's no back wrestling. It's more so just having a good base, a lot better base. I mean, obviously that's going to translate to cage wrestling. Whenever I'm wrestling against a cage, I'm going to have better, a better idea of where my hips need to be and where I need to be transferring that weight. But it's mostly helped my stance and having a strong stance as like an immovable stance.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for someone who's looking to get involved in sumo here in the States?
Start.
Seems to be the common theme today.
Yeah, just start. So the thing with sumo is it's not as popular as MMA or jiu-jitsu or boxing, so you're going to have a harder time finding a club that does it. But if you live in a larger city like Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, or New York, and things like if you live in the big San Diego and California has one, live in the bigger cities, there's a chance you have a sumo club. So just Google it. Do what I did. I literally looked up sumo wrestling near me and found out 2 weeks later that I was going to have a tournament. And now I've been doing it for a couple years now, and now it's given me a job, a career that I can do. I can go, make money talking about sumo wrestling and getting to travel and stuff like that. So sumo's awesome. If you want to join, find a club near you. Literally just look up your city and sumo wrestling and see what comes up. And if you can't find one, then go on a Reddit subforum for sumo and just be like, hey guys, any sumo clubs you guys can give me, and somebody'll help you out. I promise.
Yeah. Reddit is a perfect forum for like, hey, I don't want to put this on Google because it's going to give me a lot of generic answers.
Right.
Reddit's going to be like, everyone under the sun's like, oh, they search for shit like that.
Yeah, I love Reddit.
Yeah.
Reddit has easily become one of my favorite social media apps because, like, I don't use it in any terms of sharing a lot or, like, you know, trying to reach out to people. But, like, if you ever have a question that Google's just not going to answer, Reddit is the place. Like, if I'm Googling a question and I'm like, okay, my answer's not here on Google, I'm going to put the word Reddit afterwards. Yeah. And then all these forums pop up with answers to my question and everything I needed to know. And then they're teaching me new facts. It's so cool. I follow like a mantis Reddit. Love praying mantises.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm a big fan. I follow a sumo Reddit. I follow Ask Docs where people just like post their random medical problems and doctors reply and are like, it sounds like you have this, but go see a doctor. Yeah. There's another Reddit called AITA. It's Am I the Asshole? And it's a bunch of people like posting what has happened in their life and asking like, am I the asshole? And people are pretty honest. Like people, you know, you've got some people that are like, no, you know, you're so great. Don't worry about them. They're haters. And there's other people like, actually, you kind of suck. Here's why. And they'll be so honest with you on Reddit. Like people have no filter or shame on Reddit. And I love it.
Not
it's
at
awesome.
all. Yeah. You want to get honest answers? Ask someone behind the keyboard.
Ask Reddit.
Yeah. Or ask Reddit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very informative to me. Like I said, we talked before. I said I had no fucking idea about any of this, and I'm just shocked at how it still blows my mind how small the ring actually is. Because if you think about it, you get these two guys who are 600 pounds apiece. They've only got like this much space to move, and I'm 185 pounds. So like,
yeah.
Them doing that, like me standing in the middle of the circle is like, oh, I've got all this. I got a couple rooms to step back, you know. But them, it's like half a step and they're at the edge.
Exactly. It's like, you know, like just pushing into them two good thrusts of power, energy, and they're out. That's it. It's all it really takes. Yeah. So it's about this around around us where we're sitting.
So crazy.
It's super small.
And I did see some pictures from your trip with Jacob in Japan, and I was like, man, I've always wanted to go to Japan. How cool was it just being in the epicenter of sumo?
I mean, like, forget
or even
sumo.
martial arts in general. Yeah.
Let's talk about the food and the animals, okay?
Animals?
Actually, the food is. I was kind of sad. I got like food poisoning in Japan.
Oh, that sucks.
I was throwing up the morning of Sumo Worlds. Like I woke up puking.
That sucks.
It sucked. I was like cold, clammy. I was like, do I still do this? And I was like, wait a minute. People donated like over $2,000 on GoFundMe. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I have to.
I have to. I'm here now. But it was so cool just to be there, to see the culture, to see Tokyo, because that's where we stayed. We got to visit, you know, Shibuya, Shinjuku, Harajuku. We got to go to a lot of big areas in Japan. But the most fun thing was the animal cafes. We went to 3 animal cafes. We went to an owl cafe. I think it was called Akiba Fukuro. I don't know how to spell it. Just don't ask me. Look up owl cafe Japan. You'll find it fine.
Let's say Reddit will have that answer for you as well.
Right. And we got to go in, and like I wasn't expecting it to be this cool. We walked in, and it was so super quiet. Like you had to whisper in there. And there's like over 30 owls spread out between this little cafe, and you just sit at your table. They ask you, the first thing they ask you is like, big or small? And I was like, big.
Yeah.
I want a big owl.
Yeah.
So they gave me a super heavy owl. Like they give you this like glove, like, you know, they see them holding like falcons and stuff with. Mm-hmm. It's a falcon, or not. Well, yeah, it is. It isn't the falcon raptor. It's a raptor. That's what it is.
Owls?
Falcons are different. Owls are raptors. So raptors encompass falcons, eagles, hawks, owls. Did I already say that? Falcons, eagle, hawks, owls.
There we go, yeah.
I think there's something, a skite or a kite. No. Kite, right? It's called a kite. And it's like, it looks like a giant
Jamie,
eagle.
can you look that up for me, Jamie?
Jamie, look at me. Yeah. It's called a kite, and it's like a giant eagle. They look just like eagles. They're crazy. I didn't even know they existed until a couple weeks ago, actually. But yeah, we got to hold it. So they got talons. I mean, they're going and grabbing little mice off the ground and tearing them up. So they need little sharp claws. So we held them on the little glove. They had like a little string tied to their legs, so they can't just like fly off of you for some reason. And you just got to sit there for like 30 minutes, I think, and hold an owl. It was so cool.
That's pretty cool.
And I mean, I could even stop there, but then we went.
No, don't.
Yeah.
I'm so interested.
Then we
I'm
went
invested
to
in this Japan trip now.
an otter cafe where you had to like completely like PPE with the clothing, protective wear. You had to wear like this skirt that was covered. You had to wear like a
Tyvek suit. Like it's a hazmat suit almost.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much you hazmat suited up, and then had to put your mask on, of course, because that does anything, and and then you sat in a room with like maybe like 10, 15, 20 other people, and there was probably like 10 otters, 15 otters in there just running and playing, and they would come like sit in your lap, lay in your lap. You could take a picture with them. They would come like the people that worked there would come with a piece of fish and lead an otter up on your shoulder and like hold the little piece of fish, and the otter would smile and just give it the
awesome.
fish. It was super cool. They looked like they were having fun actually. And
the puppies of the sea.
Basically, yeah. And then we saw one of my favorite animals ever, and we showed up late, so we weren't able to get on a reservation because it was like super booked. I mean, it's a capybara. We went to a cafe. It was called Cafe Capyba. It was a capybara cafe, and they had 2 capybaras. And we showed up with like plenty of time before they closed too. We're like, dude, surely there's no way we're not going to be able to see these capybaras. And then we get there, and they're like, sorry, the reservations are booked up, and like by the time you could get in, like to wait, it's going to be closed. We're like, well, we just traveled like 30 minutes to like we see them. So,
Just let me look at them.
Yeah. And so like we could see them when we walked in. Like there was like just some little couches. It was a small little building. And so there's some couches and capybaras, and they let us walk up to the fence, and like when they walked up to the fence, we were allowed to pet them, so we get to feel them. They felt like pigs.
They're like giant guinea pigs.
They're like giant guinea pigs with super coarse hair. And they were so cute. They were making cute little noises, eating like carrots out of people's hands. Like it was the coolest thing ever. Like if you go to Japan, find the animals that you really want to see. You should be seeing capybaras and owls and otters. Let's say that right now. But if you like pugs, I guess go see a pug cafe. Like they have those, but like you can see pugs here. Yeah, find a cafe with cool stuff. They've got like
How did you find out about these types of cafes?
I follow a lot of like travel and food Instagrams that will post things like one of the Instagrams like Bring Me, and they do like Bring Me New York, Bring Me Japan, and then they'll post like a cool video with something that you could do in that area. And so I just have like little things saved in my phone for like, if I ever go to Japan, I'm gonna go here. And then I had a bunch of those saved. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Japan, I'm going to Tokyo.
I gotta do all the shit.
Yeah, I gotta do everything. And so like there was a couple videos of people going to like Harry Harajuku's cafe, which is the one we originally were going to go to, but we showed up and like we weren't going to be able to get on that reservation. It was all booked up for the day. You had to like show up and sign up for it, or something like that. And so we walked down the street because the nice lady that worked there was like, "There's another otter cafe like 2 blocks away." So we just yes. So we walked through and we went and found another otter cafe. But what was I saying? I was going on a tangent there.
We were just talking about animals and
how I found it. Yeah. And so the Harry Harajuku, I had seen a video on Instagram. I saved it. And I did that. Honestly, I just Googled too, like things to do in Japan. And if you're going to visit anywhere, just do that. Like if you want to go to like San Diego and you're like, man, what are we going to do in our time in San Diego? Well, Google it. Like Google things to do in San Diego. And then they'll be like, oh, to pay $200 and whale watch for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Sign me up right now. I'm doing it. Like whenever we go to San Diego for nationals, I'm doing some whale watching. So
for sure.
If you just Google wherever you're traveling and Google like things to do, places to do, fun events, good food, like you'll find good places. But Instagram is also a really good tool.
I'm gonna follow that page that
Bring
you just
Me.
mentioned.
Yeah, that one's a good
That's
one.
cool. Me and my wife were gonna go to Japan for our honeymoon, but then COVID fucked it all up. So.
COVID fucked everything.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, can't do that anymore. We still want to go because like I've always had this thing about like samurais and stuff.
Oh, they have a lot of samurai culture there.
Yeah, and so I'm like, man, this would be cool. And now I have to go see otters and capybaras.
Absolutely, they have like a samurai museum in Tokyo, so definitely hit that up.
Oh yeah, I would, yes, for sure. It's just, and plus I always heard, I mean, there's so much jiu-jitsu out there too.
Yeah,
so much.
We actually, so that's a funny story. I was gonna find a gym and train jiu-jitsu. I was actually going to go to Tribe MMA in Tokyo, and they have the gym is run by an ex-UFC fighter from Japan. I forget his name. But then I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute.
Talking origami.
Origami. I don't know.
He fought Nick Diaz and got go-go plotted.
By Nick Diaz?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This was like back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Wow.
There's highlights of it all over the place. But
I'm looking that up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look up Nick Diaz go-go plata because I already forgot what his name was.
Yeah, so like the story is it was a pride fight and they were beating the shit out of each other, and then Nick, like second round, he got taken down, threw up a go-go plata, submitted him, and then the fight became canceled, not canceled, but
no
like
contest.
Yeah, declared no contest because he tested so high for
weed.
His THC metabolites were like through the roof.
I bet.
And I'm like, bro, he just beat the shit out of you high as fuck. Like, just let him have the win.
That's more impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's why he was so creative to throw up a go-go plata.
Yeah.
Like he was just chilling, bro.
Yeah, it was cool.
Go-go plata is such a stoner move.
So
for sure.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, it's a badass fight. But
I learned how to do that move like actually literally 2 weeks ago
Really?
at my coach Adam's house. I was like, I said I didn't know how to do a go-go plata. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, you're a purple belt, Madison. I was like, okay, I don't know every move. Sorry.
Yeah, just give me a fucking break.
Just show me the damn move.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah. So you're gonna go train somewhere in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm ADHD. So I was gonna go train at Tribe MMA, and then I had seen on Instagram that United World Wrestling had posted this lineup of people who were gonna be possibly on the world team for the Olympics this year, and I saw like they tagged each and every Japanese wrestler, and it was like a whole lineup of all the weights. And I was like, this is really cool. And I'm going to Japan, so like I should hit up all of them and see which one hits me back up.
Yeah.
So,
hey, where are you training? Where are you training?
Yeah.
Can I train? Yeah.
So I wrote out this long message of like, hello, I'm an MMA fighter, amateur MMA fighter from, America, and I'm going to be visiting Tokyo, Japan to compete at Sumo Worlds, and I would love after the tournament to come be able to train some freestyle wrestling with you. And so I took that in English and then I translated it to Japanese, and I sent it to like every single girl on the world team. One girl hit me back up. So
that's all it takes.
That's all it takes. That's all I needed.
That's it.
So some of them read it, most of them didn't, and then one girl hit me back up, and she's like, "Hey, I train at EQI University, and here's the town that we're in, and here's my coach's Facebook. Hit him up and see if you can come train." So I was like, "Awesome!" So I messaged her coach on Facebook the same thing, and like he spoke English because he had come to America for a little bit of time during school, and so I was able to have a conversation with him in English, and I was like, can me and my boyfriend come train freestyle wrestling? We're both MMA fighters. It would be an honor to be able to come wrestle with you guys and work with somebody who's on the world team, on the women's team. Her name is Ami Ishii. And he said yes, and he said, just let me know when you guys are here. I can even have somebody pick you up at the train station, and we'll have you guys come wrestle. And, like, we've got showers. And it's like, awesome, I'm doing it. So we show up we take a train. I think it was like a 45-minute or hour train, maybe even more than that. But those bullet trains are so fast.
Oh, yeah.
I think we did take a bullet. Yeah, we did. We took a bullet train to EQI because it took like an hour and a half, and you took like a regular train. It's going to be like 2 hours long. So that was really cool. Take a bullet train for sure.
Yeah. I want to.
Yeah, it's
I
fast.
just want to do all the things.
It's and they're so clean. Like they have such cool like little amenities and stuff. Oh, it's amazing. So we show up. He picks us up at the train station. He takes us back to the gym, and we got to wrestle with some very talented wrestlers. Like I'm telling you, like I got taken down probably like 30 times to my one.
Wow.
To my one. And the one takedown that I got during live wrestling, because we did the whole warm up with them, the whole workout, and then we did like live wrestling for the whole thing. And they were all like very perplexed, like, why are these two Americans here? Like, what are they doing here?
Yeah, they're spies.
Like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
And so I think they learned pretty quickly that they were all like light years ahead of us on freestyle wrestling, and we were just honored to be there and wanted to wrestle them. And so
just picked up some new tips and techniques.
100%. Yeah. I knew, like, I started learning some different ways to do single legs from these girls, different ways to finish single legs. They were getting the outside single and then putting their hands like in between the legs, and the way that they were circling with it just puts you right on your butt. And I was like, I feel like I've seen that, but I've never had it done to me, and that's amazing. And so I got taken down like 30-1. The one girl that I took down, it was because I'd already wrestled like 4 or 5 of the girls, and I was like, oh my God, they're so good. Like, they just keep taking me down. And I talked to the coach because that's the only guy that speaks English there that I could talk to. And I was like, man, these girls are so good. Like, I've gotten no takedowns. And he was like, okay, well, she's a world team member. She's a world team member. She's Asian champion and second at Worlds. She is, like, he's like, all these girls are really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you're making me feel a little better about myself. And then he was like, you know what? You can take down this girl. And I think her name was like Nini or something. He was like, Nini. And he called her over and he was like, this is Madison, or like, introduced us. And he was like, you wrestle with her. She only wrestled high school. I was like, I only wrestled high
You're
school.
like, now I have to take this.
Yeah, I was like, okay. She's a freshman. She's
Yeah.
a little bit smaller than me. So I was like, all right, if I don't take this girl down, this guy will never respect me.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
so I had like a war of a wrestling match. We went 2 rounds, and I in them took her down once and never let her take me down at all. And I was so happy. But still, all the other girls took me down enough times to make up for hers. So he was just like, okay, let me give you the worst girl on our team.
Right.
Here you go.
He thought about it. He was like, but still, like, training under people or training with people like that, it's so crazy just because I've been in rooms before where it's like, this guy's champion, whatever, and I just watch them because I'm like, they're gonna beat the shit out of me, like, whatever. But even like just training with high level grapplers, jiu-jitsu guys, it's like, fuck.
It's a different level.
Yeah.
It really shows you to respect the amount of time and effort that these people put into it. Even though, like, that's more of a... Wrestling is more of a caveat to that because, like, you can come to gyms around in Houston or in Texas or anywhere in the U.S. You can find a gym and be like, oh, that's a really good, black belt at that gym. That's a really good purple belt, and these guys are good. But, like, Japanese wrestling is so much more advanced than American wrestling. Like, these guys' whole life is wrestling. Even against the guys whose whole life is wrestling in America, they're way more dedicated to this sport than we are. And so, like, not to say that American wrestling is bad. I mean, we're always neck and neck with Japan on the women's side, but, like, that's our competition is Japanese wrestling. They have the best female wrestling in the world, hands down. I'd say maybe Russia and America have the best for the guys. I can't give Russia the win for that one. But so these people, like, they're on just the whole gym is on a different level. Like, everybody in the gym is on a different level. They're all just so incredible. Would never want to fight one of them in the street because like,
just get dumped on your head.
Yeah. You getting suplexed.
Yeah. That's awesome. Did you do any other training while you were there?
No, besides the tournament, that was the only martial arts experience we really had. We focused on, like, going and just doing cool stuff and seeing
the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Experiencing the city, walking the city, shopping. I did a lot of shopping. I love shopping. And I was like, shopping in Japan? You count me in.
Right.
So I did a lot of just, like, we did a lot of experiences more than anything. Because the food was screwing me up. This food was actually, I'm sorry, Japan, but it wasn't that great. And that's what's really sad is, like, I love ramen. I love sushi. I love going to Jinya Ramen, getting ramen here. Like, it's always so good.
It's Americanized.
It's Americanized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get ramen there, and it's different bases, and it kind of tastes like broth, and the noodles are homemade. And, like, now we went to one ramen spot, and it sucked. But, like, it had a giant, like, light up sign in the middle of it. It was
that
the middle
has
of
to be good.
It was like a sticking out like a sore thumb at this intersection of, like, all these huge buildings in Japan. I was like, this place is going to have to be good.
Right.
Sucked. So that was really disappointing. Also, I don't like raw sushi. I like cooked sushi because, like, I'm an American and I am Americanized myself, and I don't like anything raw, whether it's sushi, fish, carpaccio, like the thinly sliced raw beef. I don't like that. It's really gross. So I learned that Japan only has raw sushi. They don't cook their sushi. That's the point of sushi. So we couldn't find anywhere that I liked for sushi. I pretty much just had to resort to, like, yakiniku, which was like Japanese barbecue. That was pretty good. I mean, we got, like, a ton of Wagyu beef for, like, $40, and it would have been like over $100 in Japan in America if you went to Gyukaku and wanted to get Japanese barbecue. You're spending over $100 on 2 people. But, like, You know, or close, not over. You're spending close to $100 on 2 people, but that's not Wagyu beef. Now add Wagyu to it, yeah, you're spending over $100 on 2 people. Whereas we spent like $40 and stuffed ourselves with rice and Wagyu beef. That was amazing. Other than that, the food screwed me up. I felt so weak, and like I was like, this is gonna affect my sumo wrestling.
but I mean, new experiences. Great.
Amazing experience. The best, regardless of how the food didn't agree with me, it was the best trip of my life. Yeah. It was awesome.
Did they have forks there?
Yeah.
I'm always okay. So like,
I think you had to ask for it though.
Yeah.
You had to ask for it. Yeah.
My wife is like prolific with chopsticks, and I'm like. So
eat
yeah.
it.
So she's like, you can't do that if we go out there. I'm like, I'll bring my own fucking fork then. And she's like, you're gonna be that
If
guy.
you ask, they'll give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because tourism is a big thing in Japan. There's a lot of people touring from all over the world, and there's a lot of places in the world that don't use chopsticks. So they definitely have the option available, but the default is chopsticks.
Right, yeah. I just didn't want to be like looked at like this fucking asshole asking for a fork. He's here at an authentic Japanese restaurant.
You could bring like one of those forks that you can pack up into its little case that has like fork, knife, and spoon.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, do that.
I'll
it's like $9 on Amazon, I think.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. A plastic case fork. But all right. I mean, this has been great. Again, very informative. What I like to do here at the end. Do you have any call-outs, shout-outs, anything you want to say to the MMA community, sumo community? Shout out your next fight. You said you were in camp. You can go ahead and plug that. And Instagram, whatever else you want. The mic is yours.
Okay. Nobody in particular I want to shout out besides. Okay, well, actually, obviously, gotta shout out people. Gotta shout out Jeremy Mahone because he's my dope coach. I've talked about him a couple times. So shout out coach. Shout out War Training Center and all my gorillas at the Gorilla Mob. Those guys are awesome. They push me every day, and they make me the wrestler and the fighter that I am every day. In terms of announcements. Hoping to fight June 9th. I had somebody that was, fingers crossed. It's really, really hard to get fights as a female in MMA, and it's even harder if you've like ever won a fight. Then automatically like 90% of the female MMA community just like cancels out. They don't want to fight you. They want like an 0-0 or an 0-4, and then they'll think about it. So it's really hard to get females to fight in MMA, but hoping to fight June 9th for Fury, and they said that if they can get a girl to say yes, they'll give us a 125 title shot. So if you want a 125 title for Fury Amateur Series, you should hit up Eric Garcia. That's my only shout out.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing us not only the sumo and the MMA stuff, but also the Japan trip as well.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it. Again, like I said before, I don't know anything about this, and it was very informative, and I learned a lot. So thank you for coming on the show, Madison. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Catch her back in action, hopefully June 9th for Fury Amateur 125-pound title.
Yep.
This has been the Matt Mindset. I'm Drew Elder, and I hope everyone has a great day.
This what the city been wanting. I know y'all patiently waiting. I do this shit in my sleep, so I had to get back to basics. Got the city tuned in, cause they know I'm going for greatness. They know I'm holding the crown, and they know I'm coming to take it.